want to talk to you about one of the things that I faced on trail that made me the most nervous. So probably the two top things that made me nervous on trail were bear encounters, and that's just because of the one instance that I had with bears that I talked about in my bear video, you know, dealing with an aggressive bear. So that kind of made me nervous about bears a little bit for the rest of the trail, naturally. But the second thing that I haven't really talked about a whole lot is fording rivers and streams. So that was a little bit nerve-wracking for me. I had never really done anything like that before, at least not that consistently. Of course, walking through the woods and stuff like that, you know, I've played in creeks and all, but fording rivers and streams in Maine, it's just a little bit different. So let's go ahead and get into that so that if y'all face this situation, you'll kind of already mentally at least be prepared. On the Appalachian Trail specifically, you really won't have to worry about this if you're a no-bow until you hit Maine. So it's probably another benefit of being no-bow. It's like New Hampshire, most of it anyway, and south, they believe in, you know, these hikers are going through enough, let's help them out, and the local groups kind of build footbridges and things to help hikers get across streams and rivers. Well, in Maine, they figure, you got it whooped, now let's go ahead and throw you into some streams and rivers. So I kind of compared it to like the Hunger Games. You know, it was too easy and there were still too many thru hikers hanging on, so they have to, you know, throw in something a little more challenging. Once you get there, you are seasoned, you are comfortable with all the other things around you, so you can handle it. The most important thing that I want to stress to y'all is you have to do what works for you. So I can give you tips, and that's all that this video is just tips on what worked for me and what they recommend and things like that. But in the end, you have to do what makes you comfortable and what makes you most, you know, mentally able to handle the situation. The first thing in crossing streams and rivers, consider the time of day that you're doing it. So if it's hot outside and it's summertime and, you know, it doesn't really matter, it'll kind of be nice to cool off in a stream or river, you really don't have to worry about this. But if it's October and you're in Maine and it's cold and, you know, the high for the day is in the 30s or 40s, you know that water is a lot colder. So I would not recommend submerging yourself in freezing cold water, you know, right before you're going to climb into your tent and go to sleep for the night. Hypothermia, anybody? Also consider rain, you know, not just the temperature when you're thinking about weather, but like, has there been a recent rain event? In Maine, we hit what we called the Maine soon. So there were a lot of rivers and streams that were extremely high. And so if you've just had a rain event, you know, that day, and you get to a river and it's getting kind of late, and again, it's cold, you probably shouldn't cross, just stealth camp. Find somewhere to camp, you know, near the crossing, and wait till the morning. You'll be surprised at how much the water level will go down overnight. In fact, while I was thru hiking in the 100-mile wilderness, there were a few girls, and I'm sure you can probably find an article about this online, but they had crossed one ford, they had forded one river and stopped. Well, there was another one for them to go across the next day. Well, they stopped in between the two before the big rain event hit, and so the water was too high on either side for them to feel comfortable crossing. So, I mean, they had food and they had supplies and things like that. They were fine, but apparently they had bad cell reception, so parents and friends and families hadn't heard from them in a while, and one dad sent out a search crew and a helicopter ended up going down and picking them up and getting them out of the 100-mile wilderness. So that's something else to consider. You know, do you have another crossing soon where there, you know, is no way to exit the woods if you needed to, you know, and if you have the AT guidebook that I've recommended before, it'll tell you all of the crossings and where the fords will be. All right, so let's get to the nitty-gritty. When you approach your stream, river, whatever, and you're about to ford, just stop and take a deep breath. You'll hear it coming, you know, that always made me nervous. Like, I could just hear the water rushing, and then I'd get down there and it'd be like nothing, and I was like, wow, I was nervous for like a mile for no reason. But, and maybe this won't make you nervous at all, it's just something that got to me, especially crossing alone, because, you know, I was hiking alone a lot in Maine. So if you can hike with other people, when you know you're gonna have a ford, that is a great thing to do, just so somebody knows if you're in trouble. But anyway, you get there, you take a deep breath, and there may be a way to skip rocks, you know, to where you don't even have to get in the water. Now, if you're going to do that, go ahead and be sure that you've picked a good place to cross and skip rocks where if you fall in, it's, you know, the best place to fall in. So keep that in mind. But if you're going to have to get in the water to cross, you want to find an area that's actually wider. I know that sounds crazy. You're like, why would I want to cross more water? Well, think about it. A wider area is going to have probably a lower water level, where a more narrow area is going to have, you know, that flow rushing and kind of like carving out and making it a little bit deeper. So you want to cross where the river or stream is more wide and shallow. In the perfect scenario, you're gonna cross at a point that's, you know, no deeper than, say, knee deep. Not always gonna happen, but that's really what you want to aim for. And then also, you don't want to cross near like fallen trees or things like that are going to kind of create a weird rapid. So try to cross in an area that's cleared out. So now you found the place that you're going to cross. You're like, this is the spot, this is where it's going to happen. What do? Well, you unhook your pack so that if you do happen to fall into the water, you don't have that weight of your pack just like dragging you down and making it harder for you to get up. That way you can get out of your pack easily. And you're like, but Dixie, then I'll lose all that stuff. Okay, well, it's better to lose all of your stuff than drown with it. So just keep that in mind. Some of the places you have to ford will have ropes. So they have Mercy sometimes in Maine. But if there are no ropes, then you just want to concentrate on your footing. If the water's rushing pretty good, you're going to face upstream. I know that sounds crazy, but you don't want like the water pushing. If you're facing downstream, then the water's like pushing on your legs and can kind of cause your knees to buckle. But if you're facing it, you can kind of lean into it. Now, I don't mean directly, you know, head on, but you can kind of face it slightly. You step to the side, and you can use your trekking poles to help with your footing. Some people think that really helps, some people not so much. I would have definitely fallen if I had used my trekking poles a couple of times, but there were people that hiked the AT with no trekking poles that made it across the rivers just fine. So I always like to kind of reach out with my trekking pole and find a good spot, you know, and stick that and then step and, you know, just take it real slow. You have all the time in the world. Just take deep breaths and take it slow. So while you're facing upstream and you're crossing, you're actually going to be crossing at an angle kind of downstream. So you're going to be crossing, like, say the water's going like this, you're going to be kind of crossing with the flow downstream, but facing slightly upstream and kind of stepping sideways. I know that might be kind of hard to envision, but just try to picture it in your mind next time you see a river flowing. Again, it's always nice to cross with a group, and I mean, if the water's just really bad, I would suggest not crossing, but if you're insistent upon getting across, then you can always, and if you have a group, you can form like a tripod and kind of cross the same way with your arms interlinked. That's one recommendation. I never really saw anybody cross together. It was just always kind of like each man for himself and somebody watching so that if they got in trouble, you know, there was somebody there to help. You can also, if there's no rope, but you have rope on you for whatever reason and you're crossing with a group, you can send like the strong man across and then they can kind of tie the rope to something. You can use it to cross, and then the last man brings it with them, you know, while it's still tied off. Now, here's where people get fat and mad. So, do you wear your shoes? Do you not? Do you go barefooted? Do you wear sandals? Y'all can get mad at me all you want. You have to do, again, what works for you. I tried it all. I tried keeping my hiking shoes on, my trail runners, and folks will be like, oh my God, that causes blisters. Yes, it can. Yes, it can. But, you know, would you rather fall and be swept away into water, or would you rather, you know, have some blisters on your feet and have your feet wet for a little while? They actually dry pretty quickly, especially if you have time to take a break once you get across the stream and dry your shoes out and it's, you know, nice and sunny. So it's just really, you have to decide. Some people cross in dirty socks so that their feet are protected from rocks because, you know, crossing barefooted is kind of dangerous. You can slice your foot open on a rock. Not saying that a sock will completely protect your feet from rocks, but so I also tried just crossing in socks before. And then I also use sandals. The sandals that I crossed in most often were these guys right here. They don't have a back on them. Was that the smartest idea? I don't know, it's what I had. I really didn't like crossing in my trail runners. I didn't like having my feet all wet afterwards.
Here we go.
Most of the time I would either do it in these socks or barefoot. Now, there are sandals that have straps on them, which would probably be a much better idea, but you know, this is gonna be more slick than trail runners probably. So again, you just have to decide what works for you, what makes you comfortable, you know, and it might take a couple times to figure that out.
Ooh, but it is slick. Probably not a good idea to be videoing while I'm doing this.
And you can ask other people what they're doing and what makes them comfortable, but you know, it's said that only cross barefooted in like sandy, kind of shallow streams and stuff. So, you know, just figure out what helps you cross safely. All right, so you've done everything to avoid falling into the river and somehow you end up losing your footing and you find yourself whoop in the river. All right, if you can't get up quickly and easily with your pack, let it go. Again, let it go. It's better. Let it go. Let it go. It's better to not die and drown. Whenever you're going downstream, you know, in the river, you want to face with your feet downstream. So you're kind of, you know, you can see things coming. You got your feet, you know, you're on your back. You got your feet out in front of you, hoping to like dodge rocks and stuff. You don't want your head going downstream and knocking yourself out on all the rocks. Do not try to fight the current. Do not try to fight it and wear yourself out and again drown. So I know that sounds hard, and it probably would be, and I've never experienced it, but it makes sense. So just kind of chill, float the best you can, try to protect yourself from rocks, and once you get to calm waters, then swim to shore and find safety. That's all I have on this topic. If y'all have any information to share on this, if you have more experience, or you know, you've figured out something that works for you that maybe would work for somebody else, or any experience like actually not being knocked down and taken downstream, that would be great to hear. Kind of what was going on in your head and how you got out of the situation. I hope that that was helpful, and if y'all have been finding these videos useful and you think that they are worth 20 to 25 cents a piece, then please consider becoming a patron on Patreon for $1 a month. You can find that link in the Show More button. Just click on that and it'll pop up. Or you can support me by shopping on Amazon for no additional cost to you. The link to do so is also there, and we will see y'all next time.
Okay, so I am here at Amicalola State Park, and there's this nice little compartment overhead, so that's the opening, where you can put like a headlamp